The dust settled slowly over the town of Redemption Springs, coating everything in a fine layer of bronze that caught the late afternoon sun. Sarah Bennett stood outside the general store with her daughter clutching her skirts, watching as the townspeople hurried past without meeting her eyes. It had been 3 weeks since her husband Thomas died in the mine collapse, and in those 3 weeks, she had learned exactly how much a widow's worth amounted to in a frontier town where survival depended on strength and a woman alone was seen as nothing more than a burden. She had tried to keep the small ranch running, rising before dawn to feed the chickens and milk the cow, but the fence posts were rotting and the roof leaked in 4 places. Yesterday, she had come to town to ask the bank for an extension on the loan Thomas had taken out last spring, but Mr. Hutchins had looked at her with eyes as cold as January creek water and told her she had 2 weeks to settle the debt or the property would be seized. $200 might as well have been $2,000. She had 37 cents in her pocket and a daughter who needed shoes before winter came howling down from the mountains. The door to the saloon swung open and Marcus Brennan stepped out onto the wooden sidewalk, his boots heavy against the planks. He was a big man, thick through the shoulders, with a handlebar mustache that he kept waxed to sharp points. He owned half the businesses in town and most of the grazing land in the valley, and he had made it clear at Thomas's funeral that he would be willing to help Sarah with her financial difficulties, provided she was willing to be reasonable about what that help might cost. The way his eyes had traveled over her body when he said it made her skin crawl that he saw her now and smiled, tipping his hat with exaggerated courtesy. 3 of his ranch hands flanked him, young men who laughed too loud and drank too much, who treated the town like their personal kingdom because Brennan paid their wages and protected them from consequences. Sarah gathered her daughter closer and tried to step around them, but Brennan moved to block her path. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, his voice carrying across the street so that people stopped to watch. "I heard about your conversation with Hutchins at the bank. Terrible shame, a woman in your position. A beautiful woman shouldn't have to worry about such things." He stepped closer, and Sarah could smell the whiskey on his breath. "My offer still stands. You come work at the Golden Rose, Tin Bar, smile at the customers. I'll make sure that loan gets paid and you and the little one have a roof over your heads. What do you say?" Sarah felt heat rising to her cheeks. The Golden Rose was no ordinary saloon. Everyone knew what kind of work Brennan expected from the women who worked there. She lifted her chin and looked him straight in the eye. "I'll find another way, Mr. Brennan. Thank you for your concern." His smile disappeared. "You think you're better than that? Better than honest work?" His voice rose, sharp and mocking. "Your husband was a fool who died owing money to half this town, and you're standing here acting like some kind of lady. You got 2 weeks before you're sleeping in the dirt with the little one, and winter's coming. Pride won't keep you warm, Sarah." The people on the street had stopped now, watching the scene unfold. Sarah could feel their eyes on her, feel their judgment. Some of them had been her friends once, had shared Sunday dinners and helped raise barn walls, but grief and poverty had a way of making people invisible. Not one of them stepped forward. Not one of them spoke up. They just watched, their faces carefully blank, as Marcus Brennan backed her against the storefront wall with his words. "Maybe you need some time to think about it," Brennan continued, reaching out to touch a strand of her hair that had come loose from her bun. "But don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't come around twice." Sarah was about to push past him, dignity be damned, when a quiet voice cut through the tension like a clean knife stroke. "Step back." Everyone turned. The man stood in the middle of the street, his hat pulled low over his eyes, dust covering his worn denim and leather vest. He wasn't a big man, not like Brennan, but there was something in the way he carried himself that made people pay attention. His hand rested easy on his hip, near the Colt that hung in a weathered holster. Sarah recognized him vaguely. He had ridden into town a few days ago, taken a room at the boarding house, kept to himself mostly. She had heard someone call him Cole. Brennan turned, his face darkening. "This ain't your business, stranger. Keep walking." Cole didn't move. "I'm making it my business." He stepped forward slowly, his boots soft in the dust. "The lady said no. That should be the end of it." One of Brennan's ranch hands laughed nervously. "You know who you're talking to, mister? That's Marcus Brennan. He owns this town." Cole's eyes never left Brennan's face. "Don't care if he owns the whole territory. He's going to step away from the lady and apologize for disrespecting her." The street had gone completely silent now. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Brennan's face flushed red, and his hand moved toward the gun at his belt. You're making a mistake, friend. A big mistake. Probably, Cole said softly. Made plenty of them before. One more won't kill me. But touching that woman after she asked you not to, that might kill you. For a long moment, nobody moved. Sarah pressed her daughter's face against her skirts, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She didn't want anyone dying on her account, didn't want this stranger's blood on her conscience. But something in Cole's steady gaze made Brennan hesitate. Whatever he saw in those eyes, it was enough to make him reconsider. Brennan stepped back, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow. Not worth the trouble, he muttered. He pointed a thick finger at Sarah. 2 weeks, Mrs. Bennett. You remember that. Then he turned and walked back into the saloon, his ranch hands following like dogs at his heels. The crowd began to disperse, people suddenly remembering urgent business elsewhere, embarrassed perhaps by their own silence, their own cowardice. Cole stood in the street for a moment longer, then walked over to where Sarah still leaned against the storefront, her legs shaking. You all right, ma'am? He asked, touching the brim of his hat. Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. Her daughter peeked out from behind her skirts, looking up at the stranger with wide brown eyes. Thank you, Sarah finally managed. You didn't have to do that. Cole shrugged. Seemed like the right thing to do. He glanced down at the little girl, and his stern face softened just a fraction. What's your name, little miss? Emma, the girl whispered. That's a pretty name. He looked back at Sarah. You got somewhere safe to stay tonight, Mrs. Bennett? Brennan strikes me as the type who might hold a grudge. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back hard. She would not cry in the middle of the street, would not give this town any more reason to pity or judge her. We have a ranch about 3 miles out. We'll manage. Cole nodded slowly. 3 miles is a fair distance to walk before dark, especially with a little one. Let me get my horse. I'll ride with you. Make sure you get home safe. Mr. Cole, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. His voice was gentle but firm. And it's just Cole. No Mr. needed. They walked to the livery stable where Cole had boarded his horse, a sturdy roan mare with intelligent eyes. He lifted Emma onto the saddle and led the horse while Sarah walked beside him, grateful beyond words for his presence. As they left the town behind, the tension began to drain from her shoulders. Emma chattered away to Cole, telling him about her chickens and the barn cat who had kittens last month, and Cole listened with the kind of patient attention Sarah hadn't seen from anyone in weeks. When they reached the ranch, such as it was, Sarah felt a wave of shame at its condition. The fence posts leaned at drunken angles, the barn door hung crooked on its hinges, and the house itself looked tired and beaten down by weather and neglect. But Cole didn't comment. He simply helped Emma down from the horse and stood looking at the property with an assessing gaze. Your husband was a miner? He asked. Sarah nodded. He worked the claim north of here. The money wasn't much, but it was steady. He had plans to fix the place up, plant more crops, build a proper chicken coop. Her voice caught. He had a lot of plans. Cole walked around the yard, checking the well pump, examining the fence posts, peering into the barn. When he came back, he said, You mind if I ask what you owe the bank? $200, Sarah said quietly. I know it doesn't sound like much to some folks, but I don't have it. I don't have any way of getting it. Cole was silent for a moment, his face thoughtful. Then he said something that shocked her to her core. I'll pay it. Sarah stared at him. What? No, absolutely not. I couldn't possibly. Not as a gift, Cole interrupted. As payment for work. This place needs fixing up. Fence posts replaced, barn door rehung, roof patched before the snow comes. I'm fair handy with tools, and I could use a place to stay for a while. You got a barn that could house me and my horse. I'll fix up your place, pay off your bank debt, and in return you provide meals and lodging until spring. Then we're square. Sarah's mind raced. It was too much, too generous, but what choice did she have? Pride wouldn't keep Emma warm through winter. Pride wouldn't keep the bank from taking everything. Why would you do this? She asked. You don't even know me. Cole looked out toward the mountains, his eyes distant. I know what it's like to have nobody stand up for you when you need it most. I know what it's like to be alone. He met her gaze again. And I know a decent person when I see one. So that's my offer, Mrs. Bennett. Take it or leave it. But decide quick, because those fence posts aren't going to fix themselves. Sarah felt the tears come then, hot and relieved, streaming down her cheeks before she could stop them. I accept, she whispered. And thank you. Thank you so much. Over the next weeks, Cole proved to be a man of his word. He rose before dawn and worked until sunset, his movements efficient and practiced. He replaced 20 fence posts, rehung the barn door, patched the roof, and fixed the well pump that had been sputtering for months. He was quiet by nature, speaking only when necessary, but Sarah came to appreciate his steady presence. Emma followed him around like a shadow, asking endless questions that he answered with patient good humor. But on the third week, Cole rode into town and paid Sarah's debt to the bank. When he came back, he handed her the receipt without ceremony and went back to work repairing the chicken coop. That night, Sarah cooked the best meal she could manage with their meager supplies, and the three of them sat around the kitchen table like something almost resembling a family. As autumn deepened into winter, life on the ranch found a rhythm. Cole taught Emma how to whittle, carving her little animals from scraps of wood. He showed Sarah how to repair leather harnesses and which herbs growing wild along the creek could be used for medicine. Slowly, carefully, without either of them quite meaning for it to happen, the walls between them began to come down. One evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Sarah and Cole sat on the porch watching the stars emerge. Sarah finally worked up the courage to ask the question that had been nagging at her. Why are you really here, Cole? A man with your skills could find work anywhere. Why stay here helping a widow and her daughter? Cole was quiet for so long Sarah thought he might not answer. Then he said, I had a family once. Wife and a boy about Emma's age. We had a small place in Kansas. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Then the drought came and the crops failed, and we got desperate. I took work with the railroad. Hard, dangerous work, but the money was good. One day there was an accident. Dynamite went off too soon. Killed 3 men. I was lucky, only got scarred up. He touched his side, where Sarah knew burns marked his skin under his shirt. But I was laid up for 2 months. Couldn't work, couldn't send money home. My wife tried to hold on, but she couldn't pay the mortgage. Bank took the land. She took our boy and went to live with her sister back east. Sent me a letter saying she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be married to a man who was never there, who couldn't provide. He paused. I don't blame her. She did what she had to do. Sarah's heart ached for him. I'm sorry. Point is, Cole continued, I know what it's like when the whole world turns its back. I know what it's like to need help and have nobody willing to give it. So when I saw that jackass cornering you in the street and all those people just watching like it was entertainment, something in me just said this ain't right. This ain't how people should treat each other. You're a good man, Cole, Sarah said softly. He shook his head. Just trying to do better than I'd done before. Winter came hard that year, snow piling up in drifts that buried the fence posts Cole had worked so hard to replace. But the roof held, the barn was snug, and there was wood stacked high enough to see them through to spring. Cole shot a deer in December, and they smoked the meat, making it last. Sarah baked bread and made stews that filled the house with warmth and good smells. Emma thrived, her cheeks growing rosy, her laughter filling spaces that had been silent too long. On Christmas Eve, they sat around the fire, and Cole taught Emma a song his mother had taught him when he was small. Sarah watched them, this quiet man and her daughter, and felt something shift in her chest. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was the possibility of love, the first green shoots pushing up through frozen ground. When spring finally broke, melting the snow and turning the world green again, Cole worked the fields, planting crops with Emma running between the rows dropping seeds. The ranch came alive in a way it never had, even when Thomas was alive. Sarah found herself smiling without thinking about it, humming while she worked, feeling something she had thought lost forever. Hope. One evening in April, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and purple, Cole cleared his throat. I've been thinking, he said slowly. My debt to you is paid up. Barns fixed, fields are planted, places in good shape. By rights, I should probably move on, find work somewhere else. Sarah felt her stomach drop. She had known this was coming, had prepared herself for it, but it still hurt more than she expected. Of course, she managed. You've been more than generous with your time. Thing is, Cole continued, not looking at her, I've been happy here. Happier than I've been in a long time. Emma, she's a good kid. And you, Sarah, you're about the strongest person I ever met. So I was thinking, if you'd be amenable to it, maybe I could stay on. Not as hired help, as a partner. Help you run this place proper, build it into something real. He finally turned to look at her, his eyes vulnerable in a way she had never seen. And maybe, if you were willing, in time we could see if this could be more than just a business arrangement. Sarah felt tears spring to her eyes, but these were different tears than she had cried before. These were tears of relief and joy and gratitude for second chances she never thought she would receive. "I'd like that," she whispered. "I'd like that very much." Cole reached over and took her hand, his calloused palm warm against hers. They sat like that as the stars came out. Two broken people who had found each other in the wilderness, who had learned that sometimes standing up for someone else is the same as standing up for yourself. That sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you were born into. Emma came running out of the house, breathless and excited about a baby bird she had found in the yard, and Cole scooped her up, listening seriously as she told him her plans to build a nest and teach it to fly. Sarah watched them together and felt something settle in her soul, something that had been restless and afraid for so long. The ranch called Redemption Springs had earned its name twice over, once for the town that grew around it, and once for the two souls who found redemption in its fields and fences, in the simple act of one person standing up when everyone else looked away. They had a long road ahead, hard work and uncertain futures, but they would walk it together, and that made all the difference. As the last light faded from the sky, and the first stars emerged brilliant and clear, Sarah squeezed Cole's hand, and he squeezed back. No words were necessary. They had both been alone for too long, had both known the cold shoulder of a world that didn't care. But they had found each other, and in finding each other, they had found the courage to hope again, to build again, to believe that tomorrow could be better than today. The wind whispered through the grass, and somewhere in the distance a coyote called to the moon. Inside the small ranch house, a lamp burned warm and golden, a beacon in the darkness, a promise that home was not just a place, but the people who stood beside you when the world turned away. And in that moment, broken and healing and hopeful all at once, it was enough.